Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the NFL draft. We've got Rick Saratel on the line. I'm excited, from the NFL Draft Bible. All right, let's break down position by position, and we'll start with the most interesting and most important position to most, and that would be the quarterback, of course. And we've got a number of guys on the table. So I'm going to leave it wide open in regards to who you like that may be a little bit undervalued by the public versus maybe who's got a little bit too much shine from your perspective.
Yeah, well, listen, Dwayne Haskins will start off there because he's my number one quarterback. I don't love the quarterback class as a whole. I think it's more of a developmental class as opposed to a year ago where we saw a lot of immediate starters. But Haskins is the guy. Again, a lot of interesting case studies, because if you look at the history of the NFL draft, you have really got to dig deep to find a quarterback with just 1 year of college starting experience that has gone on to the next level and succeeded. Right now, the most successful examples that we can find are Mitchell Trubisky and Mark Sanchez. Other than that, there really hasn't been a successful. And Mark Sanchez, hey, we could debate whether or not that was a successful story. He did go to 2 AFC championships.
Running game got him to 2 AFC championship games.
But it's to my point that, if you go and find a quarterback with just 1 year starting experience, it usually does not translate well to the NFL level. So Dwayne Haskins, again, we mentioned in the previous segment, the Bill Parcells criteria, that's gone out the window in terms of starting experience and wins and all that stuff. But I mean, what's not to like about the guy? If you want to nitpick and talk about his downfield deep balls, maybe we're off the mark a little bit. Otherwise, this guy has pocket presence like a Ben Roethlisberger. He can absorb a hit. He can extend a play. He's not going to kill you running the ball by any means. We saw that with this 40-yard dash. He's not a huge speed guy, but he's got pocket presence. He can stand tall. He can take a hit. And, maybe that extra half a second where he's willing to stand in the pocket and make a throw is the difference between a big play and a sack at the next level. So if I had to, gun to my head, use a first-round pick on a quarterback, Dwayne Haskins would be my guy. Now, we also spoke about Kyler Murray in the previous segment. People can go back and watch that for more in-depth analysis. I do think Kyler Murray can succeed, again, in the right scheme, in the right offense. That moving pocket kind of style, I think, can work. Now, he bulked up 12 pounds to what his playing weight. It went from 195 to 207, I think it was. How does that translate? Well, Russell Wilson's done a great job of absorbing hits. If you notice the difference between and complete different size, right? Carson Wentz is 6'4", Russell Wilson's 6 foot, but the difference is Russell Wilson's learned how to stay on the field. I told Carson a couple years ago at the combine, dude, you got to stop diving head first. That's why he got injured his senior year in North Dakota State. It's why he's been injured. If you go look how he got injured the last 2 years, has been diving head first. And Russell Wilson has learned how to slide and absorb. He rolls with the hit. He'll take a hit, but he'll roll and absorb the impact. And if Kyler Murray can do that, I think he can go on and have a successful NFL career. Now, the other two guys, I think that'll get pushed up the board. We saw it in the past, guys like Blake Bortles and Blaine Gabbert and Christian Ponder, they get pushed into the first round due to need and necessity. And I think Drew Lock and Daniel Jones are going to fit that criteria this year. And, hey, Drew Lock's got incredible arm strength, but you got to be able to live with the back foot throws, the across the body throws, the opposite hash throws, the sidearm dip and sidearm throws. So if you're able to tolerate that, and I say tolerate because a GM might be cool with that, but the head coach is an offensive coordinator and QB coach. You're going to drive a guy crazy with some of the throws that Drew Lock is making, and that's why the longer he sits on the bench, I think Denver's still in play. I think if he can go sit behind a Joe Flacco for the longer he sits, the better I feel about his long-term potential as a starter. Daniel Jones, I spoke to Ron Jaworski about this, might be the most prepared, and you watch, it's almost identical. he watches so much film to Peyton and Eli Manning, but his shoulder shimmy, his shoulder fakes. This is the only quarterback at the combine where he was mimicking reading off the safeties. He was mimicking progressing through his reads against thin air. The only quarterback to do that at the combine. So from a technical fundamental standpoint, Daniel Jones is going to look outstanding. But then you take a look at some of the lopsided losses he was on the wrong end of, and you take a look at the arm velocity. To me, is the biggest concern. I've got a lot of questions about Daniel Jones. And I'll, the one guy that I'll throw into the equation where I'm high on, let me talk about two more guys, really. One is Will Grier, where the film is outstanding. Atrocious Senior Bowl, horrible combine. Again, you don't want to put too much stock and emphasis into those events because the grade is the film. But man, what are you getting here? Because I mean, the Senior Bowl and combine were just so bad, and then his film is so good. You got to weigh what the end evaluation is. But the one guy that I really like, and I'm a little biased because I was at the Temple game, I was at the Rutgers game. This Tyree Jackson out of Buffalo, I mean, flick of the wrist, he's throwing the ball 70, 80 yards downfield effortlessly. Now, he's a raw prospect. Again, similar to Drew Lock, I think those two guys have the greatest arm strength in this year's draft class, but so raw, he needs some refining. So, again, I want to sit him. I want him to learn. And then eventually, I think he's a guy that has starter traits. And, oh, by the way, at 6'7", 249 pounds, he ran a 4.59 40. So, the athleticism is there. But Tyree Jackson is a guy, I think now he's in that day 2 range. But if I have to draft a developmental quarterback on day 2 or day 3, Tyree Jackson is my guy.
I'm glad you hit on Grier because entering last season and then at the conclusion of last season, if we throw out the underclassmen, just talking about the NFL draft eligible guys, Will Grier was my guy, not to project to the next level, but if I had to win a college football game and I had the same personnel you did and I could choose a quarterback, I'm taking Will Grier at the collegiate level to play quarterback for me.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Great college player, and we're going to see how that translates to the next level. Didn't check off all the boxes, doesn't have the prototypical size, but he's obviously a gamer, has the arm strength to make all the throws. And, you got to like his body of work at the end of the day. You got to trust the tape and not get too caught up in the Senior Bowl and combine. But I actually felt bad for Will Grier. He had such a rough draft season that I think at one point he was in the mix and consideration for first round. And, I think he still goes day 2. But probably cost him a few dollars in the pocket.